The message after the tone.
Yo, 148, 3 to the 3 to the 6 to the 9, representing the ABQ. What up, biatch? Leave it at the tone.
Chemistry is the study of matter, but I prefer to see it as the study of change.
Mr. White? You understood what I've just said to you.
Yeah. Lung cancer. Inoperable. DEA took all your money, your lab. You got nothing. Square one. But you know the business. And I know the chemistry.
Now, normally I'd say someone did the world a favor. But our snitch's car, turns out we find 2 grams of meth in it.
Where'd you get this? 'Cause I know your little punk ass didn't cook it.
We take it to the lab. They come back, they tell us it is the purest they've ever seen.
99.1%.
I mean, our chemist is blown away, said he couldn't do the same thing better. Worse yet, it didn't come out of some super lab in Mexico. We're thinking this was cooked right here in the land of enchantment. The car was abandoned in what appears to be a cook site. This is the only other thing left behind, so be on notice. We got new players in town.
This episode actually picks right up from where we left off last week. Walt was just wrapping up a seemingly successful bedroom romp with the wife as he has a small coughing fit. She's unaware of his cancer condition at this point. Walt excuses himself and takes a moment in the bathroom. He is once again naked. They seem to not dress Bryan Cranston too much in the first beginning parts of the episode. We're now brought 12 hours into the past. This is 2 episodes in a row where the timeline has been shifted to help detail the story. Walt and Jesse are back in the desert with the motorhome stuck, and we are led to believe there are 2 dead bodies in the back. Those bodies belong to Crazy 8 and Emilio, the drug dealers from the pilot episode. The deal did not go well. Walt's in the tidy whities and green shirt. He collects his things and destroys that video that he made telling his family that he loved them. And this kind of lets us know that Walt is not ready to die just yet. The motorhome gets pulled out by a very stoic Native American who knows that these 2 are up to no good. I personally have no idea what meth smells like, but the fellow that pulled the RV out seemed to recognize the smell. As he gets handed a fistful of dollars that are wet and dripping, he runs it up by his nose, and there seems to be some recognition there. Upon inspection of the RV, we see the 2 bodies, and Walt and Jesse return to their struggle for power on what they're going to do. A plan to clean up the mess and go their separate ways is decided upon, and a small victory of the RV starting is had. This victory is very short-lived, as we learn that one of the gas masks that they used was left in the desert. To add a little bit more to the situation, one of the dead bodies begins to move and make some noise. Obviously not dead. Now is when they run the opening credits. After the commercial break, we come back. The action is picked up with Walt's bathroom, where it seems he passed out on the floor, laying there naked. We hear his wife talking through the door. It's as though she let him sleep in the bathroom all night. We see Walt. He's nearly in the fetal position, curled up as he's laying there, hearing her and rumbling around. It cuts directly to the breakfast table, and there's this thick tension between Skylar and him. The work of the costumer is kicking on all cylinders right out of the gate. Skylar and Walt Jr. are in similar shades, which show a unity with their characters, and Walt is in something different. After having a transformation in the pilot episode from beige to green, he is now sporting a bicolored button-up that is either green with beige stripes or green with beige stripes. Either way, it is showing this transition either coming further or stopping where it was at. Here's where the costumer and the art department actually work very well together. The napkins, cups, table settings, and food are all very well coordinated. To put Walt's colors more towards that new Walt of green, he holds a napkin for the entire conversation about cleavage of a young lady's senior picture. Walt Jr. informs us that this is due to the Wonder Bra, and this awkward conversation is quite nicely done. It's fun, and it really shows a lot about the characters, but it is halted by the phone ringing. Jesse, on the other end, is posing as a telephone company telemarketer. He starts to leave a message, and Walt instantly gets up to take this call. Here, another transition is about to take place for Walt. Again, it's driven by colors of costumes, props, and that would be the art department as well as the costumer. As Walt begins the conversation, we see a full picture of bright yellow-orange shoes. We then see Jesse decked out in a yellow hat and jacket. Jesse and Walt are both falling back on what they know. Jesse, that would be selling drugs or doing drugs, and Walt, that's school and family. As the topic of the conversation is about to take their law-breaking to a whole new level. Jesse tells Walt that one of the guys in the RV is still not dead, and Walt tells Jesse he will be there after school. All while keeping the ruse that the person on the other end of the phone is a telemarketer. Obviously, Skylar catches on, but she says nothing. The phone call ends and the two white boys leave for the day, as Walt and Skylar have a fun, uncomfortable kiss that was done very well in the doorway. Pulling off these awkward kisses can be very difficult for actors, but they did it very well. The two guys do not even make it to the car before Skylar is checking caller ID and hits the redial button. Greeted by Jesse's colorful answering machine that does not give too much information about who he is. Walt, now giving a nicely informative science lecture about chiral, hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is an important thing because we hear Walt explaining how mirror images of organic compounds can exist and be opposite each other. He uses his hands as an example, right, left, active, inactive, good, bad, that they can look the same but not always behave in the same way. This is what Walt is becoming, like a bizarro Walt, if you will. He's created two lives where he needs to look the same but not behave the same. When he mishears a student that he believes said murder, the weight of the situation comes crashing down on him. The music starts in instantly, which is something we need to pay attention to when the music starts in this series. And we see Walt opening a yellow gate to obtain 2 gallons of acid marked with a yellow accented label off of a green shelf. Color is extremely important so far in these first 2 episodes. Meanwhile, Jesse is at home rifling through a junk drawer. Color scheme, again, driven home. The counter is green and Jesse is in almost all yellow as he pulls a compact of makeup out of the drawer and begins to put beige cream over his blackened eye, which he received in the pilot. It's almost as if to hide his true colors, but we all know when you hide who you are, bad things start to happen. We hear noise and learn that the RV's door is open. Yikes. We learn one of the bodies is missing and that Jesse has absolutely no clue how to apply makeup. This creates a nice, lighthearted moment in a very tense situation as he comes running out around the corner. The makeup is on horribly, his eyes are bulging, and we hear music. We see Walt's car. Walt drives a Pontiac Aztek, and that vehicle is going to be an episode all on its own. It's very interesting. And he turns to the corner and he sees Crazy 8 stumbling down the road in a dirty yellow vest. I think it is safe to say yellow is the next level of bad to be broken. Crazy 8 recognizes Walt and he starts running. Unfortunately, it's directly into a tree. Walt's clad in browns and beiges from head to toe, even matches his car at this point. He loads the young man up into the back and drives off. Skylar is at home, and she's playing a little bit of Nancy Drew or Hardy Boys detective on the mysterious phone number. And she does an internet search, and she finds out about Mr. Jesse Pinkman. She visits his website, and we become privy to the fact that Jesse might be a blue belt in Kung Fu in a band called Twathammer. He might do motocross, and he likes MILFs. The MILF thing I really feel is foreshadowing of somehow, because she mentions it quite clearly and repeats it. What is really brought to our attention is how stupid Jesse is, as well as the DEA that was after him. In the pilot episode, the DEA mentioned they were clearly looking for a guy named Captain Cook.
That's not you?
The Captain is on his license plate and very definitely on his website. The car is not too inconspicuous either. The site displays him smoking, doing all sorts of questionable behavior. I understand this would need some ends that have to be connected, but not too many of a high school science teacher figured it out in under 6 hours and was at his house telling him that they need to get together and cook meth. Want to point that out. Back at the Pinkman house, Walt and Jesse are discussing what to do with Crazy 8 in his state of not being dead. Walt attempts to find out what kind of person Crazy 8 actually is. Nice conversation of how the drug breakdown works on the street. The use of Starbucks business plan put it all into layman's terms for us all. He's a distributor of beans. As the two heroes are trying to decide how violent the survivor might be, see if they're in danger or not, noise can be heard from the basement. Of course, Jesse and Walt did not tie up the violent drug dealer that they left in the basement. Jesse grabs a kryptonite bike lock. I really hope that they work better for restraining drug dealers than they do keeping bikes safe. Twice I have been let down by kryptonite bike locks, putting that out there for everyone. But once they get him secured, these two return to an almost married couple battle for struggle or power and authority as they're bickering back and forth. The scientist in Walt comes through, and the decision to dissolve one of the bodies in acid is agreed upon. Little does Jesse know, Walt already decided to do this earlier in the day by getting the acid from school, stealing it essentially. And when the situation breaks down to the most base level, a coin is flipped to assign duties to each person. Walt loses the coin toss, and we assume he lost whatever they decided. A direct cut is done to the next scene. Bernstein, this episode's director, does a nice job of giving us, as the viewer, a moment to question what has happened. Because we see Walt sitting at a table, he's in full contemplation having a beer. Giving us to question if Walt's last coin toss, like when him losing the coin toss, did that mean that he had to kill Crazy 8? Did he have to dissolve the body? The silence in question is broken quickly with a phone ring, and we know that we're at Jesse's house, and Jesse is calling to find out what kind of plastic tub to get. Therefore, he's the one who gets to dissolve an acid. There's a nice breakdown of how to discover what kind of polyethylene container you have to be researching by the number in the little triangle, or the letters in the little triangle. Great information for the recycler. Didn't really pay off too well for Jesse. But back to the color palette. Walt picks up a green phone to talk to Jesse, who is wearing yellow and deciding on a plastic tub that is blue. That happens to be Skylar's main color this far. Behind Jesse is the paint wall, where we see the paint samples that could be arguably nothing at all, and maybe they're not, but the amount of detail that has been paid this far leads me to believe that there's something more to it than just plain paint samples. Blue, red, yellow, green, and beige have been too prominent for this to be just a coincidence that happened to go on while we're filming. I'm not saying that this is a tremendous find and the key to the universe, but it is a nice feather in the cap of the art department, and it pulled everything really tightly together. While talking to Jesse, a big pile of weed is found by Walt, green. During the conversation, Walt admits that he has not done anything with Crazy 8 yet, but he's building up the courage to do so. Jesse tries to ease the feelings with some unsettling words of wisdom that come across quite poorly. The conversation ends and Jesse returns to container shopping, trying to fit himself into a plastic tote within one of the aisles. Back at the house of Pinkman, Walt is testing out methods of killing. Hammer, knife, and the like. He pulls out the guns from the bad drug deal which happened during the pilot episode. They happen to be in a bright yellow bag. We get an image of Walt standing at the top of the basement steps. No color can be seen except the glowing yellow bag. This was done with extreme intent. The lighting in the basement stairwell had to have been adjusted and fine-tuned to illuminate just the bag and nothing else. You can't even see any facial features in Walt. It almost has a beautiful horror movie silhouette. Is this the next transformation of Walt? Stay tuned and we'll find out next week. No, just kidding. As the camera angles change, we see all of Walt, colors and all. It's pretty clear he's not going to kill Crazy 8. We can see the father, the husband, the teacher at this point. Crazy 8 asks Walt what he's going to do. Another gold star for the art department is we see up to the left of Walt a piñata that is green, yellow, and red. When Crazy 8 asks, "What you gonna do?" Walt drops the bag and goes upstairs. Once upstairs, he is almost completely camouflaged with the set. Beiges, browns, and slight hints of green. His pants even line up with, I believe it's the sofa. This is the old Walt White coming through. Crazy can be heard downstairs asking for a glass of water. Walt hits the fridge, gets out some things. We cut to Crazy 8 sitting with his legs crossed like a child at school, leaning up against the pole that he strapped to with the kryptonite lock. As things are slid to him, we cannot see at all who was sliding the things, but we do know it is Walt White. He returns upstairs, rediscovers the weed as a Jamaican rhythm starts. He rolls a joint. This is something Walt White is not good at all, rolling a joint. There's multiple attempts, it's quite funny. There's multiple failures. It's almost as if someone was asking, "Walt, is this a good idea? Should you be doing this, man?" But he gets it right eventually and lights it so classically off of the gas stove, face down by the burner and all. The music continues. We see Jesse pulling into the driveway and closing the gate. He comes in to find, obviously, Walt getting stoned. There's this great moment where Jesse, and all of the things that are going on, realizes Walt's smoking his weed. Jesse's less intelligence comes out again. He didn't buy any tubs because he could not find one big enough to fit a whole body in. Then we find out that Crazy 8 is still, Jesse finds out Crazy 8 is still alive, and that things are right where they were before with all of this time that has passed that was just wasted. To end the day, Walt and Skylar are at a prenatal appointment to have an ultrasound done. All is well with the baby. The parents learn that the sex of the child is a girl. Skylar makes a comment about her being 16 and start dating and how great it's going to be, and Walt will have to think twice about having a girl, and the realization that Walt will be dead by the time the girl is 16 sets in. He starts to get emotional and turns away. After a beat, Skylar asks Walt who Jesse Pinkman is. Walt plays stupid quite humorously and eventually says that he buys weed from Jesse. Skylar does go a little bit out of bounds on this, and Walt lays it all out on the table. A nice moment is had while Walt is explaining to his wife what he wants, where we see this tremendous talent of Bryan Cranston, the actor. His realism in acting at this point is quite amazing. Something to really check out. Go back, watch that nuance, and you see all of the feelings and emotion. Back in the classroom on the next day, it opens with a shot of the students taking their midterm. Walt is wearing a mostly yellow shirt and having a serious private moment within his head, but he accidentally audibly says, "Stop." It's heard by the students, and he corrects the situation by saying, "Stop in 15 minutes." Walt is starting to break under the pressure. The cracks are starting to be seen by people that don't know him very well, the students, over his family. Back at the Pinkman house, we see the three Stooges shaving on the TV. It's an episode where each of the Stooges' life is actually in the hands of the others. They're reaching over with straight razors and rubbing it across the neck, slapping. It's a Stooges episode, so it's meant to be humorous. But the fourth Stooge, not Shep, is actually Jesse, who is lighting his meth pipe as he has Walt's life in his hands. Jesse's now dressed in red, which he was in the pilot. We hear the TV in the background, and the TV says, "Take a powder, go on," as if it's giving Jesse the permission to smoke the meth. The noise from the basement increases as we see the screen, and the Stooges blow powder everywhere. Everything just went wrong for the Stooges. Jesse goes into action and heads to the motorhome, where a 3-day-old body has been sitting in the hot sun. He fights the smell and drags this neatly wrapped, like a joint, Emilio out of the motorhome. He's instantly interrupted by Skylar. Skylar, again, I don't know if this is foreshadowing or not, drives a car that happens to be the same color as Jesse's, and she is quite a MILF. She confronts Jesse about selling drugs to Walt. She believes that weed is their only vice, and in another uncomfortable conversation, Skylar informs Jesse that her brother is a DEA agent. Jesse agrees to never sell Walt pot again. Skylar leaves and Jesse returns to his meth pipe and then back to the mission at hand. He drags Emilio's body upstairs to the green-tiled bathtub and drops the body in with guns and acid. Jesse has a solo conversation in his altered state and gives a nice recap of the episode. After completing the body dump and acid, he returns downstairs and hits that meth pipe again. Walt arrives and is confronted by Jesse about his wife and the DEA. Walt smells the meth and is upset. Jesse, eager to say what he did, and quite proud about the body and how he handled it, the science teacher and Walt comes out. He walks to the hallway as we see blood dripping through the floor, followed by body goo and nice grossness. He explains why the plastic tub was needed. Here we go, full circle. The scene ends with Walt back in beige and Jesse back in red. It cuts to the desert where the whole thing started. Music begins. We see some kids chasing a ball. A little girl finds the mask that was left behind and puts it on. This was done a little haphazardly in my opinion. It's like the kids were almost sent, go that way. It was kick the ball, chase the ball, kick the ball, chase the ball. It would have been nice if there's a bit more of a back and forth because they covered so many other details in every other scene. But now let's talk about what meth does. Meth mouth is a side effect of using methamphetamines. Due to teeth grinding, dry mouth, and lifestyle choices, most likely to earn money to get more meth. People will get rotting teeth. This is usually for folks that have been using it for a while. It will build up to that. Along with this, there can be burns on their lips from the heated glass, aluminum cans, whatever they're using to smoke out of them. I'm not a fan of synthetic drugs at all, I want to be clear. I do not want to put anybody down, but I do want you to imagine walking into a room, seeing a group of people with meth mouth that are smoking out of cans, light bulbs, and glass pipes. This should not sound like a good time to you. If it does, if you or you know someone is having problems with this, you have to get help. Call a helpline, do what you gotta do. The damage that you or they are doing to themselves, your family, and your friends cannot be fixed until you stop abusing drugs. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for us here at Television in Review. That was episode number 2, season 1, The Cat's in the Bag. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you can join us next week for the next episode of Breaking Bad. I'm Dre Daly. Good night and good watching.
The kids who find the gas mask in the desert are cute, but also in old clothes, which are a little ragged. They are poor and apparently Native American. The little girl putting the mask on is a great touch, as Walt and Jesse's activities will ultimately affect people they don't even know about. Jesse's house is very old ladyish. Patterns, floral prints, lace table runners, china cabinets filled with knickknacks, etc. Not really what we expect a meth cook and gangbanger's house to look like. Check out how Walt falls back on technical language to find euphemisms for what he wants to do. Chemical discorporation instead of dissolve the bodies in acid. Walt does this a lot when a situation, especially one he created, becomes uncomfortable. He lapses into tech talk to give himself some distance. He often does this to convince himself that while he's involved in the meth trade, he's not as bad as the real bad guys. I mean, after all, he's doing it for his family. See, Walt insists that he and Jesse are in this as equal partners, but when he's desperate, and when it's to his own advantage. This is a recurring motif in the relationship throughout the series.
We have got to do something, and I am open to suggestions.
Man, okay, this whole thing was your...
Don't you dare put that on me! You brought those guys out there. This is your responsibility.
Hydrofluoric acid does indeed eat through glass and most metals and plastics. But despite this, it is considered a weak acid because it doesn't completely disassociate break down into its components in water. But would it work to dissolve a body? Yes, however, it is a bit unusual for a high school chemistry lab to have such a large stock of the stuff, if any at all. Walt's choice of hydrofluoric acid is itself unusual, as he should have known that lye, sodium hydroxide, is a much more readily available and less widely corrosive base, and when mixed with water, will reduce a human body to sludge and fragile bones. Given that lye could also easily and safely be used in and washed down the drain of a tub, is much more commonly available, and it is puzzling that Walt wouldn't use it instead. However, as we will see throughout the series, Walt is a smart guy, but when he's under pressure, he doesn't come up with an obvious solution. Instead, he'll choose the most complicated solution that he knows no one else would ever think of, and probably because it's so darn complicated in the first place. Also, the fumes given off by either hydrofluoric acid or lye would have likely required Walt and Jesse to wear a gas mask in the house constantly, because exposure to the fumes from the glop that falls through the ceiling would have been extremely dangerous, as hydrofluoric acid is extremely toxic, affecting nerve function and causing systematic toxicity in humans, reacting with calcium in the blood, and potentially causing cardiac arrest. Walt and Jesse, however, are unmasked at the time.
I'm sorry, what were you asking me? Oh, yes. That stupid plastic container I asked you to buy. You see, hydrofluoric acid won't eat through plastic. It will, however, dissolve metal, rock, glass, ceramic. So there's that.
This episode introduces some of Breaking Bad's trademark camera angles. The first is during the coin flip. The camera is positioned at a point that is above where the ceiling would be and looks down on Walt and Jesse as the coin, spinning in slow motion, rises into focus in the foreground, hangs, and falls back towards Walt and Jesse's upturned faces. This type of shot will occur several times during the series and seems to always serve to underscore the significance of a particular scene. Jesse lists DeVry University under education on his MyShell page, where he apparently studied data systems management. DeVry is a for-profit institution that has come under fire in the past, with students often complaining of deceptive loan practices and substandard instruction. When lecturing to his chemistry class about chirality, Walt uses his hands as an example. Your right and left hands are mirror images of each other, but they can't be completely superimposed on each other. In other words, your two hands won't totally line up. In organic chemistry, the same concept exists. Some molecules exist as almost mirror images, called enantiomers, but with vastly different properties. Walt uses the drug thalidomide as an example. One enantiomer of the drug is a substance that prevents nausea, and thalidomide was marketed as a drug to also combat morning sickness in pregnant women. However, the other enantiomer of the drug is a powerful substance that causes severe developmental defects. Before the drug was banned for use in pregnant women, thousands of babies were born with severe birth defects, including missing limbs and flipper-like appendages. Walt doesn't mention it to his class, but meth is also chiral. One enantiomer is a decongestant, while the other is an addictive psychostimulant.
Walter Jr.'s on pot?
What? No.
Where's he getting it from? Seriously, is it this Lewis person? What are you going to do about this?
Marie, you need to look me in the eye. I am strictly asking about a story that I'm writing. That's all. Right hand to God, Walter Jr. is not on pot.
Hey, what's up?
Walter Jr. Marijuana. He's smoking it.
It shouldn't come across as some news flash. That partner of yours, he's got a big mouth.
Worth nothing when you smoke it all. Get off the Hitler, bitch! Your job is waiting for you in that basement, as per the coin. Fucking do it already.
Walter, I don't know what you think you're doing here, but trust me, this line of work doesn't suit you.
You're not angry?
Live and let live, man.
That's very understanding.
Whatever, man.
Skyler. There's something I have to tell you.